Thank you so much for staying with us, Kakaki, the African Voice, this Wednesday morning. Top of the first hour now, going into the very second hour. And that's when we take a look at the headlines on the front pages of Nigerian newspapers. And I'm here this morning joined by two gentlemen of the press. Simon Reef Musa, he's here with me, and he's joined by Dr. Iyobosa Wogeren, both of them respected gentlemen of the press. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me.
Thank you very much.
This morning. This conspiracy of white, I don't understand. Did you plan it?
Well, I'm sure it's coincidence, except that I was not brief. Otherwise, I would have also
put a red cap.
Put a red cap.
All right, let's look at what the papers have for us this morning. We'll start with the new National Star. Reforms not impacting poor Nigerians. IMF tells FG. Says millions remain in poverty, inflation, despite progress on policy. One's economy still faces hurdles. That's the top story on the front page of the new National Star. Questions over Tinubu's 2027 campaign posters. That is how the Daily Trust leads this morning. Also on the front page of the Daily Asset, you have a different story. Coalition. ADC mobilizes 97 lawyers to defend interim leaders in court. Lists Mark, Rauf Aregbesola, Bolaji Abdullahi as defendants. Accuses APC of sponsoring lawsuit against party. You'll find that on page 2 if you're looking for the details. Now let's go to the Standard Times. Coalition. Haters trying to overthrow Tinubu presidency. The story flows from page 1 into the inside pages. The Daily Monitor leads with a story also on the political front. Planned expulsion. Again, Abure, Usman LP factions clash over Obi. Ex-Anambra governor has committed anti-party activities, no longer has a place in LP. Abure faction. Claim to expel Obi, handiwork of political impostors acting on behalf of shadowy interests. Usman Group, back and forth there between the two different factions of the Labour Party. Let's go to this Nigeria. Senate reconvenes. Natasha stays away. I didn't resume based on legal advice, says Kogi Central Senator. Senate counters House claims, says 6 concurrence bills passed last week. Go to page 4 of the paper for the details of that. The Nigerian pilot, trademark red headlines. FG pegs varsity admission age at 16. Formally pegs at minimum age for admission into tertiary institutions at 16 years, says it reflects balance between cognitive maturity and academic preparedness. Go to page 4 of that paper for the details of that story. Now let's go to the Nigerian News Direct. 2025-2026, mixed reactions greet 150 cutoff mark as FG pegs admission age at 16. Warns varsities against admitting underage students outside caps. Parents in Lagos, Ogun, divided over admission age policy. Page 4 of the paper has the details of that story. ADC mocks Tinubu over Nigeria's snub in U.S.-Africa trade talks. That's the lead story and the lead headline of the Observer's Times. The writers say ADC has no preferred presidential aspirant, says Mark. 2 ex-PDP Guba candidates, Jegede Ajayi, lead a mass defection to ADC. Let's go now to the next paper, which is the Blueprint. Senate to Reps. Bills concurrence not garbage in, garbage out. Insists due diligence on principle of reciprocity matters. Where together it takes 2 hands to clap. That's credited to Akpabio, the Senate President. The Authority newspaper leads this way. You lied. Senate attacks reps as both chambers trade blame over delaying concurrence of bill. Daily Independent has Another story now, doubling Nigeria's milk production in 5 years unrealistic. Experts. For details of that, go to the front page and then check the inside pages, I think page 28, for the details. The Mirror leads with the story, Ebonyi State government accused of suppressing civic participation, violating human rights. That story is on the inside pages, page 15 is where you will find the details of the story. You also have this interesting headline here, 26 civil society groups demand probe into FCT Minister Wike's alleged abuse of office. All right, that's the last paper we have. Let me come to you, gentlemen. We have quite a number of headlines to look at this morning, and I'd like to start with you, Yobosa. Reforms not impacting poor Nigerians, new national star. That's the top story.
Yeah, I think that is coming from the global financial institutions, the IMF. What they are saying is not new, even though in the last 2 years, the presidency, has celebrated the achievement of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, talking about several reforms that they have carried out in the education sector, in the infrastructure, in the health, in agriculture, so many things that they've celebrated. Actually, when the president marked his 2 years in the office recently, and I also read what the Minister of Information and Orientation said yesterday, that the reform might not be immediate. It will take time before Nigerians begin to see the dividends of those reforms, and appealing to Nigeria to be patient with the president. Now, having said that, I think the IMF is not saying anything new. No matter the policy that the current government is implementing, surely it's not resonating with the poor people. It's not reflecting in their well-being. When we've not seen a reduction of poverty, we've not seen increase in employment. If you ask the ordinary man on the street, they will tell you that whatever the federal government is doing is not reflecting in their well-being, and that to some extent is why most Nigerians are not angry. I mean, most Nigerians are not happy with the government, whether at the federal level or at the state level. Except the presidency is listening to those who are around them, who want to tell the president what he wants to hear. But the truth of the matter is that if you go to the street today, not just in the federal capital territory, even in the rural area, they will tell you that they've never witnessed this kind of situations in their life. But not even during Buhari regime. Like I said, the reform might be good on the long run, but I'm saying that as I speak to you, Nigerians are not happy. And so it's one thing to carry out reform that will impact on so many things, but you must also not run away from the fact that those reforms, for example, the removal of fuel subsidy, has created huge social problem in our society. So many things like that. So many things. So if the purpose of the government is the well-being of the people, I think there must be a deliberate policies on the part of the federal government, the state government, and the local government, to introduce policies, that will impact on the well-being of the people. While the long-run project or policies, that will make Nigeria grow in terms of development and economy, while they're implementing that, they should also take into consideration the immediate policies that will impact positively on the life of ordinary Nigerians. You and I, not the policy that so many people are benefiting. Let's use the Federal Capital Territory as an example. In the last 2 years, the Minister of FSD has carried out some infrastructure development in the Federal Capital Territory. Good. But ask the people of the Federal Capital Territory today whether they are happy. The question is that while you are busy building roads, what of the health sectors, what of the education sectors? Recently, the primary school teachers were on strike for over how many months? They just resumed just yesterday. Go to several hospitals in the Federal Capital Territory. There are no enough medical doctors health workers to attend to people. Go to the rural areas, the area councils, find out whether the people are benefiting from the infrastructure development that the honorable minister is carrying out. Yes, I like it. Go to the Federal Capital Territory, the urban area. Roads are very good. So many things, so many bridges are being linked. The bad roads are being tied. But the question we should ask ourselves is those projects benefiting the ordinary people in the Federal Capital Territory? Similar things across the country. So it is only a healthy Nigerians that will drive on a good road. So the point I'm making is that the federal government should also consider policies, that will impact positively on the well-being of the ordinary people.
Yeah. Okay, Simon.
Yes,
I think as I was talking, what was in my head was this proverb in Yoruba that talks about the desirability of a well-roasted dog. But it takes a very long time to roast a dog properly. But how do you assuage the intermediate hunger? Because he's talking about reforms that the government has already embarked on, and the IMF is saying that the reforms are not impacting poor Nigerians. It looks like it's a proverbial roasted dog now.
I totally agree with what the IMF has said, and I want to say here that the removal of fuel subsidy led to state governors having almost triple what they used to have. The problem with this country is that we always point at the center. What are the other side doing? What are the state governors doing? What are the local governments doing? Because they collected so much, and people are not holding them accountable.
But in real terms, what is the value, the purchasing power of that money? Because if we're talking about 400% rise in prices of goods and services across the board, if a governor who used to have 10 billion, now has 45 billion, in effect, he still has like 10 billion.
Well, let's be very, very realistic. If the federal government had removed fuel subsidy, and then those money they used to pay for subsidy, they now deploy it to social services, to ensuring they provide buses, so many things. You will discover that the standard of living will have at least, be upped a little bit. But because all this money, all this benefit of the removal of fuel subsidy is distributed to state governors, to local government, you now ask, what do they use that money for? That's the question you ask. And that is why we are having what we are having. But at least I'm happy with what you just said. Because one, insecurity is ripping across various parts of this country. We just had the story that, again, gunmen ambushed vigilante in Plateau and killed 70.
Very, very.
Insecurity is everywhere.
Disheartening.
You understand? There is no way you can improve the welfare of the people amidst insecurity. And that is why we continue to insist that the government must do something. And that is not just looking at the federal. No, the communities must be involved. The state must be involved. The wards, the villages, they must be involved. It's not just about federal government asking, we're expecting 49 jets. What do you need those jets for? Is it just to bomb and bomb and bomb, and in the process you mistakenly bomb, defenseless, peace-loving communities? That should not be the focus. The focus should be, what are those things that you can do, both at the federal, state, local government, to alleviate the suffering of the masses? I'm very happy he talks about, you go to hospital, there are no drugs. You discover that there are instances where drugs meant for public hospitals are sold to private pharmacy. It's happening, even right here in the Federal Capital Territory. So you must do certain things to nip corruption. Because corruption at the very center of every issue we are facing in this country. So whether you like it or not, certain things must be done. We should just say, what the IMF is saying is not new. We feel it. We live among the poor. We are poor too. If people who were in power for the last 24 years are telling you that they are hungry, then what about some of us that have even not been in power? No. Those are things you have to look at.
Someone told me some years ago, Simon, that if you drive a second-hand car,
Yeah.
you're poor. And I think that's Paul Alaji, Dr. Paul Alaji, the economist. I think, if I remember correctly, that was him. He told me years ago in Lagos, on this program, that if you drive a Tokumbo car, you're a poor man. So, but the question really is, before we move over to the next issue, the question really is, poor Nigerians, poverty has actually been identified as one of the causes of the insecurity that is ravaging the country at this point. And that's been talked about over and over and over in the last 15 years or so. So I think maybe IMF may also be touching on a very raw nerve. Yobosa, what do you think?
Is it like you were jokingly saying that if you are riding a Tokumbo car, you are poor? How many Nigerians can afford a brand new car today? A brand new car today should be almost about 50 million, 60 million. So how many people can afford it? But that aside, talking about the issue of insecurity, whether we like it or not, if you want to improve tourism, if you want to grow the economy, if you want to create the enabling environment for business people to do their business, and by extension grow the economy, you need security. It is the determinant of every other thing.
Sure.
Because if you don't have security, you are not going to be able to grow tourism. If you don't have security, you are not going to be able to grow the economy. If you don't have security, you are not going to be able to grow so many sectors. Okay. So if we want to do so many things, we must face the issue of insecurity. I agree, around the world, there will be insecurity challenges, but there must be a deliberate response to insecurity so that the whole world would know that you are responding, and you can reduce it to a very minimal level where people can have confidence in your country.
Okay, let's go on to another issue. Now, the Daily Trust has this headline: questions over Tinubu's 2027 campaign posters. Simon, this is 2025. The elections are coming in 2027. Like someone said last week, we may have skipped 2026 or removed it completely from the calendar with the way Nigerian politicians are going on.
Yes. Honestly, I was really disturbed when I saw these campaign posters of the president, people campaigning for his re-election. Even when the INEC has not blown the whistle, over campaigns, it's quite unfortunate. Now, I ask the question: why should the government just, neglect calling those people who put all those banners calling for re-election? If you are staying along the airport road, you discover that from the city gate, up to whatever end.
Till you get to the airport.
You get to the airport, it's Tinubu, back door to door, this and that. And I think when Atiku went to Kano to commiserate over the death of Alhaji Dantata, at the airport too, there was, this. So it's a lot of them, it's of concern. That's to tell you that politicians are not interested in the welfare of the people. They are simply interested in re-election. Because the whole essence of politics...
Simon, isn't there a law that says that campaigns should wait until a certain time before elections?
We don't obey the rules in this country. We don't obey rules in this country.
Bekule,
you know all those things.
Bekule, let's be very sincere. That law you are talking about is difficult to implement, because how do you determine whether Tinubu or any other politicians endorse the posters that you are having on the street? But whether we like it or not, in any democracy, especially in presidential system of government, after 2 years, the campaign for the next election starts. It's like that, But the truth of the matter is that I saw the Daily Trust report. If you also go to some parts in the Federal Capital Territory, I've also seen Rotimi Amechi's posters, voting for presidency and all that. So it is not just Tinubu that you are having these posters. Like you said, you went to Kaduna last week, you see Atiku posters everywhere. So politicians are like that, And somebody said, will you blame Tinubu for this, what is happening now? Because one of the things that I like about this coalition, the ADC coalition, is that it has really put the APC on their tone. this before now, this arrogant posturing of the ruling party APC. Oh, there's an attempt to capture the state, an attempt to impose a one-party system in the country. That has been killed now. So, if you like, say that APC is in a panic mood. So they have to sit tight. They have to respond to the ADC coalition's move. So you can safely argue that the President Tinubu and his campaigners are responding to the tensions, political tensions that is being created by the opposition party. Because the man wants to go for second term. The man wants to go for second term. So if an opposition like ADC and PDP and other political parties are campaigning, strategizing on how they are going to take over power from him in 2027, so do you expect him and his strategy to also sit down and be watching them? There's no politician that would do that. So in a way, Tinubu may be responding to the opposition, to take over power from him in 2027. But like I said, in 4 years' term of the presidential system of government, after 2 years, the campaign starts for the next elections. And that's exactly what we are witnessing now. But unfortunately, whether we like it or not, at the end of the day, governors will not take a back seat. Everything that we'll be doing in the next 2 years now.
That is of concern to
Yes,
Nigerians.
anything that we'll be doing they will be doing in the next 2 years now is how to retain power. While the opposition will also be, distracting the attentions of the present government on how they are going to, snatch power from the APC. So both ways, I think both ways are guilty about these things. And that's why somebody was suggesting that rather than having this presidential system of government, we should introduce parliamentary system of government that make you, for example, if you are not doing well, you can be removed before the end of your tenure, so that this distraction elections of every 4 years, will not be there. Because if you want to practice presidential system of government, this is what you see. It's not peculiar to Nigeria alone. Even in US, it's like that.
Simon.
Well, I think to me, I find it very commendable for the emergence of a coalition that is seeking to unseat the president in 2027. Before now, everybody thought, oh, you just roof. It's just a clean course to 2027. But I'm also telling you this, that the presidential ambitions of people in that coalition will determine how far it goes. Without any sense of whatever people may disagree with me, I think we seem to have a full grip on that coalition for now.
In fact, if you look at the headline on the front page of the Daily Asset,
yes,
you realize that even that coalition is beginning to experience its own turbulence.
Of course, we expect it to have it. And that is why the presidency came out to say, oh, these people will fizzle out in 6 months. To me, they will only fizzle out when they now determine who becomes the presidential candidate.
So,
because
they've not even gotten to that point
yes,
of determining presidential candidate. Look at the headline here.
Yes.
Coalition. ADC mobilizes 97 lawyers to defend. They are already in court.
Of course they are already in court because people thought, people are now saying, some people are saying that the negotiation with Musa, who was a former chairman, is no longer so. Some people headed to the court to say, oh, what happened? It was just a deliberate and illegal attempt to seize their party from them. So that is just part of it. But I believe it is something of politicians coming together to know how they sort out themselves. Some members of the ADC are saying the presidency is moving ahead. It's having a midnight party, negotiation with some of the ADC people. So a lot of things are happening. And to me, if you are dealing with somebody like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is at home with all the nuances, with all the backdoor negotiations, you understand that. He won't simply sit down and allow you to just have a clean sweep. No, he is not Jonathan. He is somebody that knows, he knows why he wants power. If he wants to come back, he will spare no effort in ensuring that he does everything that he needs to do to ensure a clean sweep.
Well, that spare no effort should be located within the context of the democratic process.
Yeah.
And nobody should encourage, because so many issues cropped up after the 2023 general elections, and those issues have not been resolved. The process of INEC, the electoral fraud that took place in virtually all the states during that election. So those things must be resolved as we move towards 2027 general election. But that said, that you talk about article, having a grip on the ADC, the coalition that is ongoing now. You see, that will determine the success or failure of the coalition. Because whether we like it or not, as we speak now, there are about 4 of them who want to be president of this country. You have Atiku, you have Amechi, you have the former governor of Sokoto State. What's his name now? Tambuwa. You have Peter Obi and all that. But from the look of things, the ADC will fizzle out the day they nominate a northern candidate as their candidate, because they will make it easier for people to win re-elections. Because Nigerians are not in the mood for that now. Presidency was in the hands of the Northern for 8 years. And the Southern has just finished, by virtue of that arrangement, by virtue of the arrangement, the Southern will be finishing his 4 years in the office by 2027. So I think the Nigeria will not be in the mood to have another Northern candidate again for the presidential system for the presidential elections. Okay. So I'm saying that if they want to really contest power with the ruling party, they must look for a credible person from the southern part of the country as their candidate. Otherwise, that party will fizzle out.
For want of time, Yogosa, let's move on to another story now. This Nigeria, Simon, Senator convenes, Natasha stays away. I didn't resume based on legal advice, says Kogi Central Senator.
Yeah, it was a very good thing to stay away, because the decisions of the Senate is not subject, some people say it's not subject to the intervention of another tier of government. So many people thought that, if there was some other newspaper, some online platform I read, they said, she was admitted. But the last time when I checked, went through Punch and other mediums, they said, no, she was stayed away. So to me, it shows that she needs to do the needful. And what's the needful? The court has said, apologize and do the necessary thing. So to me, that she didn't appear, she stayed away, it's an indication that she's willing to abide by the rules. And I welcome that. No. See, I am neither for Natasha nor for Akpabio. These politicians are...
No, Simon. There are 2 issues.
No,
here,
the
court separated the issues.
Yes.
The issue of our conduct on the floor of the Senate as distinct from the
contempt.
Not contempt, the sexual harassment allegation. And we do know that what the court said about that one is that the Senate president was not wrong. He was exercising his powers as given to him by the House rules. So we also have Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan spoke to our correspondent that on Monday. I recall seeing that clip, and she said she was waiting for the CTC.
Exactly. That was the point I was
going to make. Now she says she's been advised.
That was the point I was going to make. Those who are saying that the judiciary arms of government has no power to intervene what is happening in the Senate, I'm not a lawyer, but they are wrong. In fact, a 100-level law students in university will understand that. In democracy, we have 3 arms of government: the legislative arm of government, the executive, and the judiciary. So whenever there's a dispute, it is the judiciary that has the power within the framework of our constitutions to interpret that dispute to all the parties. So if there's a dispute among lawmakers and they went to court, the judiciary has a responsibility to interpret that dispute and resolve it. I think that's exactly what they did. Well, first they said that the suspension of Natasha denied has consequences of representative in the Senate. So on the basis of that, the court described it as excessive power by the Senate and asked that she should be recalled immediately. But however, it now said that on the issue of there was what they call it now, that on the issue of sexual harassment, that it was defamatory and all that, something like that, and said he should apologize. But I was shocked the next day when I saw in the newspaper that Natasha was convicted. It was not a conviction because it was not tried for criminal act. But that issue need to be resolved. From what you said yesterday, we also had a report yesterday. And because, of course, before them, the senior spokesperson said that although they welcome the judgment of the High Court, but that they are waiting for the CTC before they take the necessary step. So on the basis of that, Natasha lawyers advised her to stay away from the court until the CTC's CDC is giving to the Senate so they can study it and determine the next move. Yeah, I'm sure in the interest of peace in that Senate, I'm sure they probably will want to obey the court of law, and also get Natasha to also apologize based on the court judgment, rather than appealing the judgment, because I'm told by some senators that they will appeal and the matter will drag out to the Supreme Court, and by the time the Supreme Court resolved the matter, Natasha tenure would have expired as a senator. But I think that issue should be resolved amicably, so that you don't deny a whole constituency of representative
an entire
in the Senate.
district.
Yes, in the Senate, not constituency. Okay, the entire senatorial district of representative in the Senate. They should do that in the interest of the people of Kogi State, not just.
Let's go to the elephant in the room now, because I call it elephant in the room because it affects virtually every family in Nigeria. The headline by the Nigerian Pilot, and it's also on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct. FG pegs varsity admission, age at 16. Simon.
Yes, I think I'm very happy the federal government has come up to peg varsity admission age at 16. But again, the question is, can they implement that? Because there are some of these universities, especially private ones, that have harped on commercial rather than the other thing, will insist that if you have somebody that is less than 16, they really want to admit such a student. And there are people that are not, there are some students that are not up to 16, but they perform very wonderfully well. So what do you do with those people? And then how effective will you be able to manage these genuine people that have, before they even reach 15, they have shown a remarkable performance in their academics? That is another thing. Then, in the admission too, I remember in the last, some years ago, the last two admission, some of these universities try not to include the various departments that are involved in admission. You discover that admission is just concentrated in the office of the Vice Chancellor. But I think in some of these universities, they should try to as much as include all departments and ensure that everything is done in a collective session. And it must also be in line with what JAM has said, because I'm aware that certain people will try to do those admission without recourse to JAM. You see, JAM is the regulatory body that monitors admission. They ensure that the conditions are adhered strictly. And there are attempts by some universities, both public and private, to ensure that JAM is not involved.
Okay.
But JAM should be involved.
Let me come to you, Bosa, because we're almost completely out of time. Now, look at what the minister has warned here. He's warning institutions against attempting to circumvent the rule by altering age records.
For me, it is not about age. Where, like you said, age 16 is okay, because as an institution, you're not just talking about whether the person is brilliant, you're also talking about the maturity, by the students to be able to also cope with the rigors of being a university student. But my worry is the cutoff mark, 150. And I begin to look at the relevance of JAM, in the present-day educational system that we have in our country. I think we have gotten to a point where we should allow universities to administer their admission process, rather than how on earth will you fix admission for 150 over 400. I was telling you before we came here that when I did JAM some years back, I scored 269. I wanted to read law in UI. I was not given admission, because then they told me that my state, the old Bende, has exhausted his own quota system. But the dean of faculty of that university told me, when I was almost crying that I was not given admission to read law, I was scored 269. Told me that it was the system that punished me, and he told me that somebody who scored 120 from Sokoto then was given admission to read law. Myself, who scored 269 from the old Bender State, was not given admission. So the point I'm making is that it is a system. I think it's getting to a point where we should allow different universities, to administer their admission process. How on earth will you expect Great Ife, for example, to admit somebody who scored 150? Or University of Lagos, or University of Benin, to admit somebody who scored 150? I think for me it is very scandalous, and I think we should have a way to resolve that issues.
We're going to have to leave it at that this morning, because we can talk about this for the next 1 hour.
Yeah.
But I thank you, gentlemen, for coming on this morning. We spent roughly 5 minutes outside of our time. Thank you so much for your time, Simon Reef Musa and Dr. Yubosa Wugaren, for joining me this morning on the Newspaper Review. All right, have a great day.